puts away the cameras and it's only him on the camera. You will only be voice in the background. Enjoy. I might come in again and
Yeah.
join for a while.
Yeah. It was an unexpected and surprising thing that I'm coming here because it was not planned and it was just a few days back somebody contacted me, so that's how it started. And when I was asked if I could speak about Hinduism, I first of all want to bring an introduction of my understanding of Hinduism, because it's not an ism which originally it is. And that is what I like very much about its background. It was just vision. It is in Sanskrit called darshan, means just visions. So that means there are so many different views and different ways of approaching the reality, which has been kind of existing parallel, and there was no one fanatic, dogmatic, one particular thing. So it has been a very rich background, and perhaps it will be interesting to understand this background more, to bring in some other perspectives. One of the great mystics which I am very appreciative of is the Chinese mystic, Lao Tzu. The interesting thing about it is that he refused to write a book, although he was recommended by the Emperor of China, please write a book. But he said the truth cannot be said, and that what is said you cannot make something out of it. In any case, in the end he wrote under certain kind of pressures one book called Tao the King. And that's what we have for the world from him. But one of the things which he mentioned is very, very valuable. When people were in tune with nature, there were no religions, because people were religious without religion. I found it very, very valuable, because the sense of religion, when it is rightly understood, the very word from Latin means religio, which brings things together, which combines together. But what is happening often in the world is that in the name of religion, it gets into power-oriented, politic-oriented, vested interest and one-dimensional way of looking. And that happens easily for the simple reason that when people don't go into direct and individual experiencing of the reality, everything is only cerebral, everything is only in the head. Words are only indicating. The word fire is not fire, the word flower is not flower. So we have to be very, very aware when we are using words that at the best it is poetic, and at the worst it becomes a basis for making misunderstandings. That's why Lao Tzu refused to write a book. It is very significant also to understand how we are all in different ways, having different backgrounds, different conditions, and connected with their different standards and values. On one side, it's beautiful, it is valuable, it is significant that we all have different backgrounds. But on the other side, till we come to consider and recognize that the way I call something right, something good, something normal, is very much dependent on my background. And somebody else who has grown up in a different background may have totally different consideration about it. So the more I gain distance to my own condition, or become aware that I am conditioned to see in one way or another way, then I become capable also to consider the other more deeply. And this is very, very important, because otherwise we cannot accept the diversity in life and understand it in the right way. The diversity is so valuable, because that's how the dynamism of life is created. But on the other side, when we don't come to consider it carefully and deeply, it becomes also the basis for conflicts and lots of destructive processes, what we see. Because most of the wars has been happening in the name of religion. And it is not because religions are like that, it is because people who misunderstand religion get into power games and get trapped in their own one-sided way of perception. Okay, let me quote one person who, in my childhood, I was growing up in a small village in India, in Kerala. There was in a magazine often a writing from one person, and he was a person of deep understanding, and he was writing, whatever be the religion, the person should be good. At that time I didn't consider it so much, but in the course of my life, I have come to realize how valuable it is. Because if you don't have an orientation to a deeper understanding, if you don't have an orientation to goodness, if you don't have an orientation to love, if you don't have an orientation to humanness, we cannot live intelligently. We cannot understand each other. So we can, when we use the religious background, religion is creating certain framework through all the rituals, through all the orientations. And at a certain stage of our life, we need more concrete and one-dimensional things sometimes, and or at least get more attractive because we want to have it more graspable. But the danger is that we start clinging to it. We start believing that this is the absolute, this is the ultimate. So in India, Hinduism has been growing, manifesting in the background, where there are such diverse, apparently seen opposing ways of seeing things. There are religious streams which worship in God in form. There are religious streams which says God cannot be in a form. And there are religious streams which says, no, your true self is God. So worship your true self, become aware of it. Or there are even people who says there is nothing called God somewhere else. You have to experience it through your own understanding. So very, very diverse things. And then there are other streams like which you have now in the world, that of yoga and tantra and other more subtler things. They are approaching without speaking directly about religious factors or God. They just say, okay, do these things to help you to understand more. Consider something more carefully and then your perception will deepen. So, in a nutshell, one can say that the depth of religious process is where our consciousness is deepening, where we start considering more courageously, more honestly, more wakefully. And that gives us the integrity, that gives us the basis to be in the world and yet not get lost in the diversity which is apparently there. Because when we are looking at diversity, we are looking through the mind. Maybe it will be easier when I give you an example which I have been also using as a symbol. A ray of light, when it's going through the prism, it becomes a diverse colors, pure, violet to red, rainbow colors. But behind it, it is one ray of light. It is something like that, seen through our mind. The one reality is seen as diversity. But when we are silent, when we are not looking through one background or another background, when I'm not seeing as a Hindu or a German, a Muslim or a Christian or any particular settlement, but just looking. And these teachings you find in every religious background. For example, when somebody asked Jesus, who among us can enter into the kingdom of God? He pointed to a little child and said, those who again become like a child will enter into the kingdom of God. This is very, very valuable because it's not about becoming clever and becoming knowledgeable and trying to prove something. It's about learning to go beyond the accumulated conditionings, because the quality of the child is, it is not yet caught in the roles, in the program, in the conditioning of being somebody, of being. A child comes without any name. We give the child a name and say, oh, you are so and so. And we say, you are from our family, you are from our country, you are from our religion. We give the identity, and every child needs that identity because we need to grow roots in the game of the world. So it has to be very carefully understood. This what looks like paradox. On one side, you have to gain all this conditioning, but the real flowering in human life is when we become aware of this conditioning and rise above it, go beyond it. Because then you realize that the diversity is part of the beauty of creation. And that is where I find some of the expressions in the Hindu background very, very valuable. There's one expression called Leela. Leela means cosmic play. That is one of the expressions about the world. The world is like a play. And another expression which is in the Hindu background is Maya. Maya means that something is like a dream, something is like an illusion. And that's also about the world of duality, world we are in. Now, I don't want to make theoretical things around it. I'm speaking about these things because it just gives an impression of the diversity within the background of Hinduism. And also it is an understanding of all the different streams of thoughts. And sometimes I'm so touched by simple thoughts, simple visions which people have, and when somebody tries to understand that carefully, then all the religion is understood. Okay, I want to give you two examples because these are from very diverse background. There's nothing directly to do with Hinduism. This is a little anecdote from Cherokee Native American background. There's a grandfather telling a child, his grandson, there are two wolves within each of us. One is a grey wolf and the other is a red wolf. And they are ongoingly in struggle. And the grey wolf is representing all our negative emotions, anger, bitterness, hate, violence, destructive potential. And the red wolf is representing all our positive emotions, friendship, kindness, love, compassion, playfulness, joy. And he said that there are these two wolves ongoingly being in a struggle in everyone. So the grandson considered and then asked, and which wolf is going to win? And the grandfather smiled and said, the wolf whom you feed most. For me, this is something very down to earth, very pragmatic, very deep, because that is where the religion starts, when we start observing this polarity in us. When we start accepting things in us and then see that we, as a human being, have a possibility not to be caught in our negative processes. It is natural that sometimes we are angry and we feel so much bitterness, disappointment. It's all human, it's there. It's like you have a room where you have art colors. So it is like in the spectrum, you have different colors, and these are also there in our emotional path. But what we as a human being is capable is to go beyond the animal-like reaction. The animal can only do in two ways. Either it fights or it escapes if there is a conflict. But a human being can consider. A human being can bring consciousness. A human being can look. What is really the case? What is happening? Should I just fight the other and destroy the other and win? Is that the real answer? Or should I escape and just run away? Is that a solution? The human being can consider and give room for the intelligence, for deeper understanding, for, to put it in a simple way, for our common sense. Because you are able to look when you don't identify blindly with the reaction which comes up in you. When you are not trying blindly to defend a kind of role or attitude, but considering it, accepting yourself, respecting yourself, but also accepting other aspects of life, the others who are involved in the situation. Then suddenly you see that, oh, we can find solutions which are valuable for everybody, which can be significant not only for one's own advantage, but it can be advantageous to others too. Now even in business they are considering this perspective of win-win. Maybe you have heard these things. But that is something connected with consciousness and allowing the deeper intelligence in us. I make a differentiation between intelligence and cleverness. Because cleverness is when we are holding to a fixed idea of who I am. I am so and so, and I like it like this, I want it like this. So it is what we call around the ego. So the intelligence is trapped and limited by this fixation in us. And then it becomes cleverness. It's not seeing the wholeness. So it's not really intelligence in a deeper sense. It's only looking for the advantage for oneself and going with the vested interests. But intelligence is when we are opening to consider, when we are looking, that's connected with consciousness. And I'm coming again back to the Hinduism basics of it, because one of the very basics of Hinduism is the perception of Advaita. And this is so significant, because Advaita simply means it is not two. That behind the duality, behind the diversity, we are coming from the same source, that is a oneness. Sometimes I tell friends who come, some of my friends are from Islamic background, I say that, how can you get fanatic, man? Because that's what you are praying. For example, the prayer of Islam is very, very beautiful, very, very simple. La ilaha illallah. Which means there's nothing other than, if you call it Allah or divine or great spirit or whatsoever, that it is an affirmation of the non-duality of reality. Everything arises from the same source. But you can also see when we don't experience it, when it's not true for us, when it's only just an idea and we don't even connect to it, then we can say that and we can still be very destructive, be very unsensible, very unloving. And this is the danger. That is why, for me, growing up in the Hindu background was valuable in this sense, because there was no pressure for me. Now things have changed. I know that in India, It's becoming more fanatic and more politicized, and otherwise people have, like, you will not believe, almost anything is worshipped in India. Hinduism is, somebody may be worshipping a tree, somebody may be worshipping the snake, somebody may be worshipping an elephant. And for the normal kind of perception, hey, what is this? But when you go deeper, then you realize that wherever your heart is finding a connection, wherever you are able to bridge to something deeper, something sacred, that can become the bridge. It is not that the divine is only in one part or another part. The divine is not fixed to a tree or a snake or an elephant or any particular deity. And so the Hinduism has been having this very diversity of perception. And that is very, very valuable, because that is what makes it not a ism. When you can accept people with very diverse thoughts, and you are not saying that I'm only the right one. In some part of India, they may be worshipping certain kind of deities, and others don't even know what it's all called, but it's all incarnations, so no problem. But you can see that when politicians come, the vested interests come, when the interest is not really to understand and to bring the best for everybody, then it becomes a power game. Then it becomes an attempt to prove who is right, who is superior. So that is the danger. That is why my emphasis in what I am doing has been always to make one aware of one's own responsibility in going about life more consciously. Because when you see what way things are going on in you, when you see how in many, many ways we are part of the wonder of life, we are part of the one nature, we are part of this interconnected reality, when it becomes your own direct perception, then it is true for you. It is not some theory you believe, because all the beliefs can be shattered. Somebody may be believing it is like this, it has to be like this, and somebody may have another argument, or certain situations can happen which goes against your belief. For example, some people believe in God and say, God is doing like this, God is doing like that. But then something happens in their life which doesn't fit with their idea of God doing like that. How can this happen? How can God allow these kind of things? And then they are lost. Because we have our idea of God, and our idea of God is our idea of God, it's not the truth. So we have to orient to the truth, we have to orient to that what is real. See, in India also, one of the things which has been very much spoken is Satyam Eva Jayate, which means the truth always wins. Interestingly, when I came to Freiburg and I saw in the university, in the golden letters is written, only the truth can make you free. It's a biblical statement. It's so significant because truth means it's not my perception or your perception. It is what we perceive when we are not projecting through our conditioning. And this is very, very important to come to an experiential understanding of reality. That is why in all the deeper teachings, whatever be the background, the emphasis is what way one can become inwardly quiet, inwardly silent, in natural way, not suppressed with chemicals, but through the understanding, how can there be quietness inside? And then when you are inwardly quiet, you are able to see and feel the reality in a very different way. Because you are not trying to assert and prove something, you are able to see. That is why the background of the Hinduism is darshan. Darshan means see. They don't say seeing this or seeing that. Learn to look, learn to see the reality the way it is. It is not projection. So the awareness of our condition, which is now possible in the modern times more easily, because we can see when we travel how in each area of the world there are different kind of tradition, different kind of background, different kind of values, and we cannot say that the way I eat my food, that is the absolute thing. When you grow up in one background, you may be growing up vegetarian, and then in another background, there's all kinds of other things eaten. So you start wondering what is real, what is true. So the more you consider the interconnected factors, then you understand that in different situations there were different developments happening. And this is absolutely right or that's absolutely right. We have to look what is now. What are its implications now? What does it mean to me? Because we understand and connect to the reality through our past, through our mind, through our conditioning. That is why the religious rituals can be valuable in giving us an orientation to the awareness of something sacred. The awareness that there is something deeper than the obvious, there is something deeper than just the marketplace and the business. Because it is this awareness of the sacred which gives us the right value, the right quality. And when it becomes your own understanding, not because somebody else, for example, when I say this to you, you hear it, it's just words. But when through your own direct experiencing of the reality, in moments when you are, we'll take some moments to come to questions in a few minutes. In moments when you are just being without any preoccupation, watching a sunrise and sunset, watching something beautiful. There are moments where you feel so, for no reason, so much joy, so much wellness, so much beauty, so much feeling of harmony. So we are needing to consciously bring the bridges to the experiencing of the reality. Otherwise we have the tendency and there is the danger that we can very easily get pulled into one belief or other belief. And following the beliefs have a great attraction because it feels so solid, it feels so powerful. You can say, I like this and I don't like this. It's fitting with our ego. But not to hate, not to go into condemnation, not to go into hurting. That's different. And that is what is very, very important. And that is why, for me, growing up in the Hindu background was being able to experience the diversity and recognize that behind the manifestation of the diversity, there is the non-dualistic reality. And many diverse teachings are available in different ways, although now the understanding for that is becoming less and less, but still, there are still, for people who are seeking, there are possibilities to come to the experience and understanding in every background. And I'm often so fascinated by the teachings in the Zen background, in the Sufi background, in Hasidic background. They are existing behind the religions. For example, Sufism is existing in all the Islamic countries, but they are not the mainstream, they are not accepted and understood because they don't go into the fanatic thing. And the Zen is connected with the Buddhism, but it is not fanatically Buddhist. It is again emphasizing on the human being becoming aware. So they emphasize very much on practicing awareness, deepening of consciousness. And just before I come to take questions, I want to say something from another background, from the Hasidic background, from where it is the deeper teachings in the Jewish background. Somebody asked a Hasidic mystic, what according to you is sin? Then he said, if you want to call something sin, not to be joyous is sin. I found it so profound, so valuable, because when you come to yourself, when you are just being yourself, without having achieved anything, without proving anything, when you are in a state of inner quietness and silence, what you experience is the joy, your natural joy. That's why now we come back to this aspect of the child. When a child comes to the world, it has not achieved anything, it has not proved anything, it has not become very clever or anything, but it is joyous, it's playful, it's curious, full of feeling of wonder. We lose that in our conditioning. We become more and more compartmentalized. We start putting everything into knowledge. On one side, it has a value, because that is how the game of the world is happening. But on the other side, we have to become aware that our reality is deeper. Our reality is, we can understand what really is only when we gain a distance. When people go to the outer space, beyond the gravitational pull of the earth, and see from far away this planet, such a small planet, they'll come back with so much homesickness, so much carefulness in this ungraspably vast universe. Such a small planet existing with so much life, so much colorfulness. We don't normally become aware of the wonder and the blessedness what we have, because we are so busy with managing the bread and butter and the mundane things. It is all valuable, but we need again and again to gain distance. I just leave it hanging like this because I can go on sharing with you many things, but we don't have so much time. And I want to answer any questions or
Yeah. I think you mentioned that religion is linked to our identity and it helps us to find like the truth. But in the absence of rituals, don't have any religion, do you think we are like vulnerable and living through illusions, or like you say, Maya?
That is exactly the thing. That is why many people, especially people who are sincere, they come into all kinds of difficulties in life. Because they believe something, they want to have something, they want to hold to it, they are holding to things, but you realize you cannot hold to all these things, everything is changing. So you need to become aware of the nature of the reality. Now that you speak about this, I want to bring another background. It's from the African background of Himbas. There's a tribe somewhere in Africa, I don't know, I just came across it not so long ago, some years ago. And it fascinated me so much because they have a tradition that they don't celebrate the birthday of somebody on the day when somebody was born. They celebrate the birthday when the mother, the woman, got the idea to get a child. That is when the child is born.
Oh, this is really interesting. What?
When
When the mothers wants to
got the idea to get a child, she wanted to get a child. That is the birthday. And interesting is this, then I heard more things. Then when a woman wants to get a child, she goes to a certain area which they have, where she waits for a song for the child. She takes time, waits for this song, and at a point when the song manifests in her heart, when it comes and when it becomes real for her, she starts singing that. And then she comes home and sings with everybody this song for the child which is not yet conceived. And then she looks for a man with whom she wants to have a child. And this is their background, and I was so fascinated by this aspect. But the most valuable thing which I found in this is when somebody from this background does something horrible, some crime, something nasty, something, what you,
Which background?
they are called himbas. Yeah. Then what they do is something very, very significant. Then the whole tribe gathers and they ask this person who has been going astray to come and be in the middle. Can you imagine what they are doing?
They hug.
They forgive the person.
They sing the song of this child.
Oh,
of
that's...
the soul of the child, because this is the soul song for this child. And their understanding is that everyone is essentially good. Everyone is essentially innocent. Everyone is essentially of fine sensibility. It is only when we get trapped in misunderstandings, in one-sided perceptions, in illusions of all kind, then we believe that, and then we think, oh, if I'm not like that, then I will be lost. So you get into all kinds of things. So even when there are horrible, horrible, horrible people, if you don't put them in that box and hate them and condemn them, but look, what is making this person like this? What way to bridge to this person? How to connect? Then you will realize that at some point or the other, it's not easy. It is not so simple. But still, you will see that behind all these diverse entanglements in this person, there is the goodness, there is the innocence, there is the childlike quality in everyone. That is what you will see when somebody is having a deep sleep. Even the so-called horrible person. When this person is having a deep sleep, what happens? How does this person look?
Peaceful.
Peaceful and like a child. There's no... You see, in deep sleep we are coming in touch with our beingness. That's why in the Hinduistic background, in the Upanishads, there is a saying, deep sleep and heights of meditation are very similar. In both, we are in a state of beingness without being anybody in particular. We are not in any role, in any condition. Only in sleep it is not conscious. In what is called a meditative samadhi, it is conscious. You are aware and in peace, in harmony. So this is the sense behind deeper experiential understanding, that one realizes that when one is just being oneself, one is coming home. So we get trapped, we get astray, we get into all kinds of things, but so I tell to all friends who come in connection with my inner world process, accept and respect yourself as you are first. It's not defending and just trying to prove I'm right, but accept and respect, don't fight with yourself. And then bring consciousness in. Then be wakeful, be alert, be critical. And then try to see, try to understand yourself. Because the deeper you understand yourself, deeper you understand the other. Because we have our basis for understanding anybody else is understanding of ourselves. So they use a metaphor. It's like when you are using a bow and an arrow, the closer you pull the bow or the arrow to yourself when wanting to use the arrow, the further it goes. The deeper you go into yourself, the further you understand the other. So this is very, very valuable to see that when you realize that what all diversity is there in you, what all complex things are there in oneself. But it is there, we are part of nature, we are part of wonder. So our chance is that we don't need to get identified and caught in our conditioning. It is all there in the conditioning, but your innermost reality is behind and beyond it. What do you want?
I wanted to ask, what do you mean by being closer to yourself, like knowing yourself? Can you be like precise, give an example of when is the moment you feel like you are in an action, or not necessarily an action, but that you are with yourself?
You see, normally in our way of going, we are conditioned to judge, to compare, to compete, to label. And what we call normally understanding is, oh, understanding because he's like this or she's like that. So we put everybody in boxes. But when you don't follow this tendency of projecting through the mind, through the conditioned mind,
I don't understand projecting.
you know, it is like what I gave you the example of this prism. The ray of light going through the prism, coming in the prismatic effect, becomes diversity. So when you are not projecting through that, then suddenly you realize, or you are capable to see yourself and the others in a different way, because you see that the helplessness in everybody, you see the vulnerability of everybody, and you see that we all come with nothing, we all go with nothing, we are here for a short while. And tell me.
So is the idea to be compassionate and understanding towards oneself, so one can also understand others and be in peace with first oneself and then also the surrounding? Is this
I use a certain expression called the 4 C's. Consciousness, compassion, creativity, and celebration.
I like it.
Yeah. The 4 C's are for that. You know, when it's very important to bring alertness, to bring consciousness in life. And then, if you want to understand yourself or anybody, you have to be sympathetic. If you're saying, oh, you should be like this, then you're only trying to impose something of your conditioned idea of how somebody should be. No, try to understand. Sympathetically try to understand. It's just like when a mother loves the child, maybe this child is in some situation where it is crying and making noise and everybody is disturbed. For the others, oh, this child is so noisy, what does it want? But when the mother comes, who is a parent or somebody else who comes, who loves the child, he tries to understand the child. What do you want? What is the matter? Are you afraid? Are you hungry? Sometimes it can be very, very banal things. You know, I can remember one situation where a child was crying and nobody could appease him. And then somebody who has connection with the child, who was very loving with the child, and then looked and said, oh, are you afraid of something? He says some dog, he said this. And then she asked, do you have to go to the toilet? Ah, yes. Just the child wanted to go to the toilet, but he didn't know how to express it. So sometimes our needs, our fears, our entanglements are like that, and we are not able to express, we are not able to bring it into visibility in the right way. Our communication is not often clear because we are not so conscious. So I also say conscious communication, because the more conscious you become of what's working in you, what's undercurrently there. For example, when they say, I want this, when we also look, what are the desires which are there in me? What are the fears? What are the calculations? Then the more you bring awareness to the undercurrent factors behind the apparent. For example, sometimes we are irritated, sometimes we are just angry. Anger is the outer part of it. But behind the anger is sometimes fear. Oh, when I'm not like that, other may take away everything. other may do something. So we are angry, we want to prevent that. But behind that is fear. So the deeper you look, the more you relax, the more you become capable to consider the wholeness of the situation. And this is what happens when we are inwardly quiet, when you are in touch with yourself, you are able to connect to the wholeness of the situation. And that is what makes us very different, because the human being has both the potential. On one side, a careless way of going, we can become so one-sided, so destructive. We are seeing that now in the world, people with so much knowledge, with scientific capacities, with atomic weapons, ready to destroy everything. But it is the same human being with the right understanding who can become so loving, so caring, so creative. And just like with the same electricity, we can have all these lights and all the machines running. We can also use the electricity to destroy, to create an electro stool, to kill somebody. It is something like that. Our life energy is in itself pure energy. It can get manifest in one form of reaction or another form of reaction. It depends on our understanding or consciousness. When we don't bring consciousness, when we don't bring attention to what is happening, according to the conditioning, it goes in certain blind reaction process. So that is why it's necessary for a human being to take the initiative, to bring consciousness, to understand oneself, to understand one's background. And it doesn't matter what background you have, whatever background, because in deeper consideration, all religious teachings are pointing towards the same reality. But it's a question of who is teaching you that religion. What is consciousness in these persons? If the persons have understood and has come to the experiencing of compassion and love, then they will do the right thing. But when there is no peace, when there is no compassion, when there is no consciousness, when there is no orientation to the truth, then it becomes more power games and politics. And that is often the danger, because there's such an attraction. With the politics, with the power games, we are getting into the game of the world. We are feeling so strong, we are feeling we can achieve this, we can achieve that. But when you are going into yourself, you are being peaceful. You are not into trying to change the other, you are not trying to conquer the other, you are not trying to manipulate the other. You are joyous in yourself, and you share that in a different way. That is why it's a very paradoxical process, and only when individuals become aware of it and see that my responsibility towards life, to my religion, to my background begins when I understand my own reality deeply. And then your understanding of everybody and understanding of what is the sense behind all backgrounds becomes possible. Yeah.
Do you have any idea of how we can start understanding our reality? Because sometimes that is more abstract than the external reality.
What do you mean?
How we can get to know ourselves without religion, without those rituals that helps you because I don't have a religion, but at the same time I want to get to that truth that you're talking about.
Yeah. That is very, very valuable. That's why I was pointing out to this statement of Lao Tse, where he said when people were in touch with nature, people were religious without religion. There were no religions because people were religious without religion. And this is the thing, because the emphasis should be in understanding the reality directly and deeply. And religions, when they are used in the right way, it can become a bridge. But we are in a period of life where there is all kind of misunderstandings and misuse, and we can come more directly into the deeper teachings without having to get trapped in any of these rituals and settlements of that kind. That is why when a human being is bringing attention to what is happening in oneself, for example, when you are listening to me now, what are the things which are going on undercurrently in you? What are the thoughts, what are the feelings, what are the undercurrent factors working? Then you are already starting to deepen your awareness. And this is what can get extended to all interaction. See, when in my work I am often giving people reminders which can be applied in a playful way in the day-to-day life process, so that I don't have so much time for explaining all those things, but I brought 2 books. I will leave it for you in this, for your school, for your college. So you can also have one. One is called The Bridges to the Wonder, which is a set of reminders which can be practiced in a playful way. You can practice for 3 weeks, something, but it's not any particular religious things. It's just very simple things. For example, you hear the telephone sound and you are going to say hello, and just you say hey. I don't say hello in an automatic way. How is it when I say hey love? So it's just bringing a certain remembrance in playful ways and bringing attention to the nature of our reality, to the wondrousness of the reality. So and that is what is important, and that is what will happen when you are bringing attention to that what is taking place in you. There are many methods, but one of them which are very common and which is also nowadays brought into many ways is one of the teachings of Buddha, which is the Anapanasati, which is becoming aware of the breath. When you become aware of the breath, you are not trying to achieve anything, you are not trying to prove anything, you don't have an attitude to breath. That's an important bridge. And breath is a bridge between the inside and the outside. So when you just notice the breath, all kind of thoughts will come and it will become very, maybe that you feel restless and you want to just go and do something else, eat something or run away, or all kind of things will come. But you watch all these things. You are not following that, you are not fighting against it. So you take, say, I will sit 10 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour or 1 hour. I say orient towards 1 hour, but you can start with 5 minutes to 10 minutes, just being with the breath, being observant of all what is there. And being with, in that way go deeper into observing not only the breath, the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions and the undercurrent desires and clinging and settlements. So it is discovering oneself. But before I conclude, I want to just say it is not only pleasant and easy when we are confronting ourselves, because it is confronting the paradoxical nature of the reality. It means also confronting the dimensions where we feel alone. Because our somebodyness is connected with the game of duality, which is the game of the world, which is called samsara in the Hinduistic background. The samsara is called the wheel, and it is the wheel of samsara is turning. There we are somebody and we are in the game of the duality. But when you are being silent, you are going beyond that. You are coming to your state of beingness. You are being yourself in a deep way, but without being anybody in particular. You are not man or woman, you are not identified with the body, you are not identified with your personality. You are becoming familiar with the state of beingness. So, coming into this state of beingness, we have many challenges to face the aloneness, face the vulnerability, face the states of helplessness, face the states of not being part of a group. Because when you are being yourself, others don't often understand you. they start criticizing you, they start looking down upon you. So you will have many challenges. It is not made simple in the game of the world. So you have to be courageous, to be honest with yourself, and you have to accept and respect yourself with all what you are, and at the same time be wakefully critical. What is happening? So it is your honesty to understand yourself which will enable you to also understand each other. And that is why I appreciate the background of Hinduism, which is saying darshan, which means seeing the reality.
Darshan?
Darshan means seeing. It is not this or that. That is why in the background of Hinduism there were so many diverse approaches, and they all could exist each other because they said, okay, you can come to the truth from this side to that side, and so come to the source in different ways. So I see that you have some time limitation. If you want, we have maybe 5 minutes. Yeah? These few minutes, we stay with closed eyes and just be with all what is there. Accept yourself with all your thoughts, all your restlessness, all your uneasiness, and be in touch with everything without trying to change anything in you, without trying to hold anything in you. Be inwardly wakeful and be present to all what is, all the thoughts, everything which comes, let it come and let it pass by. Take 1 or 2 deep breaths and slowly come back. So I'm grateful to all of you that you all came together and share something. For me, sharing is also sharing something which is common to us. When I share with you this, I'm also becoming aware of that more deeply. I'm also reminded of it. So it's very, very valuable that you are all very carefully considering and listening. So we'll see another time perhaps.
Thank you so much.